Hello and welcome back, everybody, to episode 214 of the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John, and each and every week I sit down here and I talk with you fine people about all kinds of things related to strength, conditioning, sometimes nutrition, often recovery. Now, if you have questions, this is a question-driven podcast. Send them to podcast at DanJohnUniversity.com. Podcast at DanJohnUniversity.com. I'll do my best to answer each and every question. Some weeks it's really easy. We got a lot of questions that really make me think. Other weeks I feel like I'm answering the same questions over and over. Now, I've gotten some emails from some friends who say, you seem to answer the same questions over and over. And that's a good point, because when you have something like this, and we're up to episode 214, a lot of people pick up later. So questions that I might have answered in the first 150 will come back up. So I'm always happy to answer good questions. And like any coach or teacher or parent, you really have to get used to answering questions. So let's do this week and let's get going. Our first question is from Noah. He says, I've been a fan of your 10,000 swing challenge for years. That's when you do, over a 20-day period, you do 500 kettlebell swings a day, ideally with the 24 or whatever weight's appropriate for you. You do the 500 a day, 20 days, you can do it in 4 weeks. That's what I usually do. Or you can just, any way you want to manipulate it. And hearing you talk about the 10,000 hip thrust challenge got me thinking about the rest of major movement patterns. So in the last few months, I did this tiny experiment. I was traveling a lot of hotels, a lot of driving, a lot of flying, and I just invented this thing called the 10,000 hip thrust challenge. I've done it twice, so I'm well over 20,000 hip thrusts, and it's not bad. I mean, you in a hotel room, you pop on the ground. I always use my glute loops when I use them. These are from Brett Contreras. I keep my knees wide out in the clamshell position. It's good for me personally. It might not be good for you. I have those hip issues, and it really seems to help me. So Noah's question is good. He says this: what lifts would you pick for the squat, push, and pull family that could be done 500 reps a day, 20 days total, that would confer similar benefits to the kettlebell swing does for hinging? Well, yeah, I was thinking about this, and my friend Tony Martin and I, when we were in high school, Tony was an interesting guy, played football and cross country in high school, which is something you don't often hear. And Eric Subert would have been part of some of this, though Eric was always seemed to be a little bit smarter than the rest of us. We would do these massive push-up challenges to the point that, I don't even know, when I was in high school I was getting anything out of the push-up, or the press-up as we say in Europe. You could do 500 push-ups in a workout. I don't think without too much, there'd be a learning curve, but I've done it. I have heard people doing 1,000 push-ups a day to get ready for wrestling season. I'm just not sure how valuable that is. So yes, push-ups are possible. Pull-ups, I've had some friends who are trying to prepare themselves for the Marine Recon, and they decided to do massive numbers of pull-ups. If you're young and pliable and you're getting ready for the Marine Corps Recon system, yeah, maybe you can do that for a while. I don't see it as sustainable. And then the third example I thought of was Ken Shamrock's book, where he talked about how he has his wrestlers do 500 squats as a preliminary. In fact, it's one of his tests that they do. They just, hello, welcome to the gym, do 500 body weight squats. Now, the value of that means you showed up in pretty good shape. The downside is, what's the value of that? So when we get into these numbers, Noah, I just want you to keep that in mind. Now, am I saying that the 10,000 kettlebell swing challenge is somehow better than the push-up, pull-up, squat challenges? No. It's just that for a lot of people, the nice thing about kettlebell swings is that it forces a lot of people to get into this position 500 times in a workout. It, for me, had amazing benefits on my ab wall. because every one of those kettlebell swings is a isometric bang when you hit that top position. Certainly it's great for the glutes. It's amazing for the grip. And there's a discipline behind it. So all I'm saying, Noah, and I'm not necessarily recommending any of it, but I've done the 500 push-ups a day. I've never done the 500 pull-ups. I'm not sure if I've done 500 pull-ups in my life. That's not the greatest statement I've ever made. 500 body weight squats a day for 20 days. That would be something, and I know, of course, these people write books that they say they do it all the time, but doing 500 body weight squats for 20 days would be illuminating at some level. There would have to be benefits from it. And if you have healthy hips, healthy knees, you really might find some interesting things about your body composition. Is it a great workout? I'd have to say no. I have, in my career, I've noticed that after 30 total reps, so that's 3 sets of 8, that's 5 sets of 5 and more, that's 3 sets of 10, that after that around 30 number, that the more reps you do for push, pull, squat exercises, you begin to get a cost to benefit issue. We really don't get that much benefit from the extra work. For a short period of time, would something like this be fun? Yes. Would it have long-term effects? It might, but the problem is they might be negative. You know, you might scorch a shoulder with the push-ups, an elbow with the pull-ups. You might find a hip issue you didn't notice with the squats. So I have a kind of a mixed review on this, Noah. Part of me, you know, the warrior part of me is like, let's do this. But the more experienced, you know, the king from Beowulf, who looks at past, present, and future, I would say, oh boy, I don't know if it's, you know, I don't know if it's worth the efforts for some of the side issues you might pick up. When I first came up with the 10,000 swing challenge, one of the things I try to get people to do was 5 days a week. One day you would do pushes. One day a week you would do pulls, usually pull-ups actually. One day a week you would do goblet squats. One day of the week you would just do the swings and just leave them by themselves. And on the 5th day we try to experiment with like abdominal work, which was hard, and some other ideas. And pretty much over time I realized that you can add push, pull, squat, pull-up kinds of pulling to the 10,000 swing challenge. You could dose it lightly, but I walked away from those harder days a long time ago. No, I hope that answers your question. It's not a firm no, obviously. Everything works, but it's one of those things where make sure there's a cliche. Make sure the juice is worth the squeeze, and I'm just not sure if in this case doing the 500 push-ups is worth the effort if you end up with some kind of maybe shoulder issue or something like that. Thank you. An outstanding question to start today. Jerry asks an interesting question. You know, I've been a fan of fish oil since the early 1990s. I think there's real value to it. I've changed my personal diet to a simple thing where anytime I go out to dinner, if possible, I always order seafood. I also have several seafood meals at home every week. Most days I start my day, you know, as many of you know, I fast and then I work out, then I walk, and then I have a very large brunch, lunch, breakfast, almost always with eggs and almost always with salmon. So I'm getting my fish oil from the seafood I eat several nights a week at the home, up to 3 nights a week. And then when I go out, I tend to order the fish if it's good fish, which is a big asterisk for a lot of places I travel through, and I feel like I'm doing better with that. The reason I moved to fish oil was I got really good advice from nutritionists in the early 90s about the benefits of fish oil. If you read my book, Mass Made Simple, I have a whole section dedicated to why I encourage fish oil. Now, what's happened recently is that fish oil has gotten a bit of a knock. So let's review Jerry's question. Recently, some researchers showed that anti-inflammatory seems no help for muscle growth. If it made me confused about taking fish oil, should I keep going? I think, Jerry, you need to make sure, and I think we all need to make sure we look at what the research is saying about the anti-inflammatory issues with muscle growth. First, a lot of people, and I work with a lot of people who do this. In fact, there is one anti-inflammatory of the teams I work with. They call it vitamin M, and I don't want to give it's something you can get over the counter, but I don't want to encourage you to do it. So a lot of people they train really, really hard, and then they swallow down a bunch of over-the-counter medicines. And remember, medicines to counter the use of them. And some people are saying, well, the problem with that is the inflammation is what charges the muscle growth. So we're in this interesting little, logic loop here. I train really hard to get as sore as I physically can. Soreness is a sign of inflammation. So I take this thing to counter the impact of the inflammation, an anti-inflammatory. And of course, that's going to quell my muscle growth, which leads me in a kind of a death spiral. Is it true? Well, I'm a strength coach mostly. I mean, that's what I do. Also, I coach a number of different sports, and I do really think I'm a good throws coach. So with my athletes, we're not always, with the athletes I work with, the hypertrophy we get from the weight room, is nice to look good in clothes. It's nice to look good on the beach. It makes you feel good about yourself, but it doesn't always lend itself to, throwing the discus farther. So we don't, I keep my eye on soreness, inflammation for a different reason. I don't want the weight room certain times of the year to impact the throwing. Now, while I'm talking about this now, my throwers are in programs where they're doing lots of front squats, they're doing lots of snatch complex work, they're doing lots of pressing, and they are getting as strong as we can get them. I still believe there's value in getting your strength numbers up early in the year, so that as your numbers come down a little bit, as you get less specific in the weight room, you're still stronger than you were the year before. It's interesting for me to say that because it's so logical to me, and yet some people still say that's not a good way to approach it. Fish oil has other benefits, and one of the reasons I became such a fan of it, and I've mentioned this in many of my books and articles, is one of the things is the parents of the athletes I was coaching who did do the fish oil almost noticed very quickly that the athlete's skin looked better. I've used acne as a coach for a long time, and skin disruptions for a long time. The skin is the largest organ in your body. So if out of nowhere a teenage boy, for example, breaks out, we used to break out right here a lot playing high school football because we had those chin straps that formed an X here. And as the season logged on, and it was actually nice. I can remember getting these pictures taken for this award called the Helms Award. Frank Caesar and I, we had finally had a couple of easy weeks because we beat, inferior teams, and so we weren't as stressed as much. And you can clearly see the change in my acne on my chin strap X line between pictures we took before that and pictures we took after. That's just an interesting side story. You don't have to lose your mind or anything about it. But what I want you to think about with this story is that if an athlete's skin looks better, something good is happening internally. Am I worried about fish oil and its anti-inflammatory benefits? Well, there's been some research that says fish oil is good for your liver health. Fish oil is good for your HDL levels and cholesterol levels. Fish oil is good for your eye health. The brands I use tend to be very expensive brands that, and I don't want to give you their names because they're competing companies, are the two that I use. Oh, there's another thing. I use one brand for about 3 or 4 months, and then I switch to the other expensive brand for 3 or 4 months because I want to make sure I play around with, and there was a DHA and EPA levels, and I just want to make sure I'm getting everything taken care of. Should you worry about it? I think if you're taking fish oil and you're doing traditional hypertrophy work, I wouldn't worry too much about it. If you're taking fish oil and over-the-counter anti-inflammatories, you might have to lean into worrying about it more. I'm not giving medical advice here, but if you are taking excessive anti-inflammatories for whatever reason, you have hangovers every morning, you only sleep 3 hours or whatever it is, I would clean up the other side of your life and not worry so much about fish oil. It's an interesting question, and I do my best to answer these kind, okay? Okay, Tom asked a question. Tom asked one question, but I want to actually deal with something else here. Tom says this: I have joined a new gym that has a swimming pool, steam room, dry sauna, outdoor public shower, and a jacuzzi, all in the same portion of the building. I want to add a 30 to 45 minute recovery program at the end of my workout, which is not bad. Throughout most of my elite years as an athlete, it was interesting because I just had dinner with 2 of my good friends who were training alongside me at the time. Great memories, but I always had a hot tub in my backyard with a shower, an outdoor shower hooked up to the hose. And for whatever reason, the water in Murray, Utah is ice cold when it comes out. So I used to do a lot of that hot tub, ice shower. In fact, in my best seasons, that's how I started my day. I would wake up, my coffee had already, if you know me, the coffee's ready to go. The moment that I wake up to the smell of coffee, I would be out there in the backyard sipping my coffee, going back and forth between my hot tub and my ice shower. There was years that I would also shave and shampoo my hair in the shower outside. I'm glad my neighbors never caught on to that, but I found it really helpful. One little thing: it was my hot tub and my ice shower, and we'll get onto this thing. So the answer is yes. I think this is a great idea. I was thinking about some sort of contrast, such as steam room for 10 minutes, followed by a cold shower, and repeat 3 times, or swim 2 easy lengths for mobility, varying the swim stroke each set, then alternate 10 minutes of steam room, dry sauna, or jacuzzi, etc. Well, frankly, Tom, the general idea I like a lot. I like the idea a lot. And now, ba-bum, the caveat. I don't trust public hot tubs. I don't trust them at all. I don't trust, well, and I'll tell you why, because I've owned hot tubs. Hot tubs should not be yellow or green. The water should not be yellow or green. It should be blue, really clear blue. If you ever use one of my hot tubs, the first thing we notice is it was crystal clear. No yellow, no green. What's making the water yellow? Also steam rooms I don't trust, only because they, and again, I'm not, I'm not afraid of the diseases. I just know that my doctor one time told me about how often he deals in the winter months with people go to ski resorts and they get what we call dots. There's a name for it, but it looks like the measles. It looks like but really it's just bad hot tub water. I understand it can also happen in steam rooms. I did not say this is a bad idea. In fact, I like this idea very much. The only thing I would tell you to do is make sure you just keep an eye on the hygiene here. The other thing that kind of hit my head, and you said 30 to 45 minutes. In my house now, I don't have a hot tub. It kind of blew up. But I still use my dry steam room, my dry sauna a lot. And so I'll go sauna, ice shower fairly often. I like it a lot. I was just going to say that 30 to 45 minutes is a fairly long time to do this. just to let you know from my personal practice, maybe it'd be a good idea to, cycle it up. Obviously, the first few times you're going to do this, Tom, you're going to be really enthusiastic and do the whole 45. But what I'd like you to also do is find yourself a shorter one, a shorter example of this, where you can go hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. I first learned about contrast training. It was I want to say the magazine was called International Olympic Lifter. The covers are always yellow. And they talked about Bulgarian contrast recovery. And of course, every lifter I knew was doing combinations of hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, because they thought that was the answer to beating the Bulgarians. And they actually had a few more tools besides hot water and cold water. I later found out that the reason they did that is because that's what they had. There was no real science behind it, but that's what they had, so that's what they used. The longer I'm in sports, the more I realize that sometimes when someone comes up with a real breakthrough answer, and I think contrast is a breakthrough, very often it's because that's what they have and that's what they do. It's not usually some big science study from some university. It's usually this is what we got, so this is what we do. Good question, and I hope you like my answer. Thank you. We got a question from Ben. I'm a 31-year-old man who's recently gone back into education. Well, good for you. Thank you. With an important exam coming up, I'm currently in the midst of trying to study as efficiently and effectively as possible. I would be super interested to hear your thoughts on a good training plan for studying up to and including exam week. Well, I was a Division I athlete, and we would always have finals, and it seemed midterms at the very worst weeks as a track athlete. I had to ask my professors to take finals early because it was always the nationals or the conference championship weekend. The good professors, I remember one time a professor just kind of folded his arms and said, "You're going to get an A. You're doing just fine. You don't need to take the final." My midterm and my term paper, he felt I knew the material. And by the way, I never missed class. I always sat up front, and I was always a part of the discussion. So just remember, I've gone through this. It's hard, and you do the best you can sometimes. He's assuming a set of kettlebells, glute loop, pull-up bar, and suspension trainer as equipment. My thoughts would be something along the line of easy strength in the morning combined with original strength resets and walking as study breaks. I think that's a great idea. Then he says, any thoughts? Thank you for your knowledge you share. Your Easy Strength Omni book has helped me to balance my strength, endurance, and I'm feeling, looking, and performing at my best level in a decade. Well, that's great news, Ben. So combining academics with training, I actually think anything you do physically while you're studying hard, preparing, is going to help you so much. I used to get so much clarity. What was his name? Mr. G, that was his nickname. Mr. G and I, every Sunday, would go for these long walks. We'd walk from the dorms at Utah State, we'd walk down into Logan, we would go to the Smith's Food King and pick up anything we needed. We'd walk down the street to this place that had really, really cheap burgers, and then we eat them, and then we walk back up on the campus. So we'd shop, eat on this walk. But I used to notice that a lot of things would pop into my head. Oh, by the way, it was a 5-mile round trip, the route we took. But a lot of ideas academically and athletically would pop into my head on the walk. I'd get back to my dorm room, and if I was studying, I suddenly understood something better than when I left, or I had that breakthrough on that writing assignment. So anytime you can, folks, combine your academics with something physical. My first thought for you, Ben, is don't think. Go to Dan John University, get the workout generator, plug in what you have, go 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever you think you can, plug in the equipment you have. You already gave it to me, and just let the workout generator do the thinking for you. I was logged in there today, and the workout generator gave me this workout, and I looked at it, was like, this is better than anything I could come up with, which is funny because the workout generator uses my brain as its algorithm. But and you know, it's the old thing about if you coach yourself, you have an idiot for an athlete. You know, it's the same thing. Now, on an easy strength thing, I know I like your heads at, but if you're going to do something like easy strength, do this instead. Do it the way I recommend it sometimes for people who don't have a lot of load. Think 3 sets of 8, 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 12. Do single arm presses, do hip thrusts and clamshells with the glute loop, do pull-ups as appropriate. Easy strength numbers would be perfect there. And with the suspension trainer, do the T's, the Y's, and the I's. The other exercises I wouldn't mind seeing you do would be some kind of goblet squats, but maybe and then finally some kettlebell swings or whatever hinge movement you find appropriate. So if you decided to do something that just keeps your head space free, do a week of 3 sets of 8 with a single arm press. Hang from the pull-up bars between each set, okay? So 3 sets of 8, week 1, 3 sets of 10, week 2, 3 sets of 12, week 3, with 30-second hangs in between each set. So go left for a set of 8, right for a set of 8, hang. With the glute loop, pop down the ground, get, I don't know, anywhere between 100 and 250 hip thrusts with the holding in the clamshell. Pop up off the ground right as soon as you can. Get your heaviest kettlebell with tired glutes. Try to punch through maybe a set. 1, 2, 3 sets of maybe 8 to 12. Keep those numbers there to keep things fresh. And then walk over to the suspension trainer and maybe just do some nice sets of T, Y's, and I's, and then finish with some curls, suspension trainer curls and suspension trainer skull crushers, so that you work your guns. That's basically what the workout generator might tell you anyway. It'll give you more options, obviously, but that would be a good workout. I don't think that would take a terrible amount of time. If you can pop up and walk for a little bit after, that's even better. One thing I do suggest, if you are taking exams, before you go on your walk, take a list of something you want to know. I would write it myself. So here are the 5 things I need to know about, I don't know, the endocrine system, whatever. Write those 5 things down just before you go on your walk. Say, I want to learn these 5 things. Go for your walk. It's interesting how much that will stay in your brain long term. Fun question, and thank you. And good luck on your exams too. There's nothing wrong with good education. I've got a question from Jim. I'm 66 years old. So am I, Jim. Overweight and detrained. Damn it. We're just talking to each other. Would you suggest starting with the fat loss generator or easy strength for fat loss? Then, if I want to change programs every 6 weeks or so, is there a logical progression through the various workout generators that I should follow? The one nice thing, Jim, if it's obvious you're on Dan John University here and using the workout generator, the nice thing about the workout generator is going to remember everything. The workout generator is going to remember all this conversation, all the workouts you finished. It's going to keep all that information for you. I mean, I like to be redundant, so you can take screenshots of it, or you can print it, or whatever you want to do. I still like paper when I'm looking backwards more than bytes. If you're, and you say you're detrained, I would recommend the general workout generator first. First question would be what equipment you have. Second question is how many days a week. I recommend 3 or 4 in the beginning and get the habit of doing the workouts. Once you get maybe 6 to 8 weeks under your belt, you might want to slide over to easy strength for fat loss. But frankly, in your case, doing the workout generator followed by a walk is probably the best advice you can probably have for a year or 2. You could really get a long-term, and especially if you switch out the exercises, just scroll up and down, switch out the exercises, depending on how you're wired up here, for me, I feel like I want to switch them out every day, but I think logically every 2 to 3 weeks would be better. So everything you said will work. The most important thing you need to do now is get those, I'm going to say reps, but what I mean by rep in this example is you need to get the workout in, the workout in, the workout in, the workout in. Week 1. Week 2, those 4 workouts. Those are the reps I'm talking about. The best advice I give on my inner circle, and we joke about it, with my friend Ted, we say, because we both train 5 days a week, we're 5 by 52. People who train three days a week, they're 3 by 52. It's far more important to work out those 52 weeks a year than it is to try to find something perfect that you only do 2 weeks. Okay, good question. I hope that helped. Jared asked a question, and he's following up on a question from another podcast. I saw in a YouTube clip when someone asked about a boxing workout, you recommended doing pull-ups, presses, and deadlifts, 3 sets of 3 times a week. Yeah, it was just, and remember, sometimes when I answer a question, I'm answering that person's question. That is the hardest thing about having a podcast, and I'll be honest with you, Jared, is that people come in, well, and we know from the analytics that they didn't even watch the whole video. They'll disagree with me about my answer, but I'm answering a question to a person. So when I answer your question, Jared, it's going to be kind of specific to you. I do Muay Thai, is a form of kickboxing, so I thought this might be good for me too. However, I have questions. Well, of course you do. I'm 38 and I've worked out since I was 16, lots of different systems and tools, and dabbled in martial arts over the years. But now I'm getting serious about Muay Thai and would like to do an amateur competition in about a year so I can get ready. So the first thing I want you to think about, you'll be 39 in a year when you do your first competition. So honestly, the most important thing you probably do right now is Muay Thai. I'm surprised you're putting it off for a year. When I first learned the Olympic lifts, the first day I learned the Olympic lifts, 3 weeks later I was on a platform at a weightlifting meet. When I first learned the discus, 2 weeks after I picked it up for the first time, I was at a track meet. I like people to get into the sport as soon as they can, but I don't know the martial arts, so I'll ease up. I have a barbell, but only 320 pounds of plates, so you have the standard home bar, a squat rack, pull-up bar, and a Kettlebell Kings kettlebell that adjusts from 12 to 32. I'm no fan of those adjustables, but hey, you got what you got. As well as bench bands, odds and ends. Would kettlebell moves such as swings and clean and press have a place in the program as well? If not, why would you leave them out? Well, the most important thing for you to do is you got to get on the mat and practice your sport. And all the other stuff that I'm giving advice about is just supportive elements. So what you did on here is you gave me an either or. Can kettlebell swings and kettlebell clean and press help you? Well, absolutely they can help you. Can squats, deadlifts, and bench press help you? Well, yeah. Can Olympic lifts help you? Yeah. So I'm answering your question as best I can. My answer is get on the mat, get on the mat, get on the mat, get into competitions, get into a smaller competition. Ask the people at the gym or wherever you train, the dojo or at the hall or whatever. Ask them to, maybe on a Saturday, let's just invent a contest for me and let me see what I need to work on. When someone's and you're gonna be 39, you should have and you've been training since 16, you should have a very, base of strength and the techniques. So if you're riffing off the question I answered on the other person, where I said pull-ups, presses, and deadlifts, 3 by 3 times a week, my answer would still be, and suitcase carries, my answer would still be, that's pretty good. Now, because you have more equipment and more stuff, can you do more? Absolutely. You might even find some value in just the standard easy strength program. You might find a real value in a 12-week thing like Mike Brown and I put together that kettlebell certification prep program. That might be great value, because if you're not going to compete for a year, you've got a lot of time to get other qualities up. There is something I think magical about the high rep kettlebell snatch that seems to help martial artists. And the reason I say that is that's the feedback I get from them. You have to keep your mind, you have to keep your head straight while you do those high rep kettlebell snatches. Last night I had a good conversation with Mike and Minnie Bukowski about why I still think that standard of in 10 minutes you have to do 200 kettlebell snatches with the 24 and then press the 48 all in a half-hour period. Of course, if it's me, I press the 48 first because that's not a big deal, and then do those 200. And people say, holy cow, that's a lot of kettlebell snatches. But that's what Pavel said. You shouldn't even look at the book Return of the Kettlebell until you've done those two things. And I stand by it. And of course, the feedback is always this: well, can I use the 20? Well, that's not the 24. Can I press the 40? Well, that's not the 48. Can I do 105 minutes? Well, that's not 210 minutes. So there is a value for you to chase some of these other things long term to achieve your goal. Having said all of that, Jared, if you're preparing for this contest in a year, anything you do in the weight room is good. But the more important thing is what you do on the mat. So just keep that in mind. You can do the workout generator, you can do the easy strength programs, you can chase another program for 6 to 12 weeks. Anything you do in the gym is fine, but your focus should be on the mat. Okay, thank you. Got a question from Gary. I am 61 and over the past 9 years got very serious about my health, lost 35 pounds, good for you, Gary. Loved to lift, competed several 100-mile bicycle races, and had the benefit of learning quality training, barbell, kettlebell, bands, push, pull, hinge squat, heavy carries, from 2 local trainers who also introduced me to Dan John. I hear he's a fine young man. I am moving to a 55-plus community soon that has a nice gym facility and want to build a community, inner circle, that's good, of people who want to be strong at 100 and play with their grandkids forever. I love to coach people, have a decent understanding of the right approach, but I'm not a professional certified coach. My general idea was to use your workout generator to help people do the programming while encouraging each person to adapt each exercise to their limitations under the advice of their PT doctor. Well, I got to tell you, I love your idea. A couple of things. Okay, we'll finish the question. I'll give you some ideas. Do you have any suggestions, advice to help guide my desire to build this community while acknowledging my limitations? Should I get certified in a program, hire a local trainer to coach us, or have other ideas I've not yet considered? So, I know a number of people who've put together inner circles or training communities. With the group you're working with, this might be one of the times where I say that I would like you to add an additional 2 things, and I'll give you some ideas. First, I like the idea of hiring a local coach. I would say those 2 local trainers who introduced you to me. I mean, they would understand the workout generator. They would understand what intentional community means. Intentional community and inner circle are slightly different concepts in my head, but to everybody else, they're probably the exact same thing. But you're getting a group of people who intentionally are coming together to work out. So when you go through the workout generator with each person, it's going to take time to do that. So you're going to need, and I'm not being rude, but laptops are going to be a lot better for you than phones because of the size of the, and then you're going to want to print out all the stuff. So one thing you're going to probably want to do is you're going to have to do some preparation for every gathering. And the preparation is going into the workout generator, sliding to the exercises that works for everybody, printing off their specific workout for the day. If you get certified, and I strongly recommend the RKC, and you can, I believe some people come in now and just audit it, which I think would be fine. Find one of the ones I'm doing and just, audit, come in. That means you don't have to do the snatch test if you don't want to, but you'll still learn everything. But the nice thing is you might pick up a few things. I give you all kinds of regressions and progressions, and you see all that in the workout generator. You having some skills would be very helpful. The first few times you put this together, it wouldn't be a terrible idea to pay someone by the hour to go through these exercises and teach proper form, some basic weight room safety things. When I watch people step over weights or step over machines, I'm always like, boy, that is just a fundamental. When I see people pick up weights poorly, it's just, pick them up and put them down like a professional. So the first thing, I think, to set this up with the workout generator, let's say the workout starts at 11, I think you need to start having people come in at 10:30, 10:45 to get the workout generator set up, to print off their specific workout and let them do whatever they want while you organize things. Now, if you have 10 computers and 10 people, yay for you, but let's look at things realistically. In the first couple of times, it might be worth pool their money together and bring in a trainer who just shows the basics. Once you get going, I think it's always important to have some kind of little warm-up. A little general warm-up can be very easy. I was going to give you ideas, but I don't know your audience well enough. And the nice thing is, for anybody who comes in late, all they're doing is missing the warm-up. After that little warm-up, I always stop and I say, okay, let's introduce ourselves. Jeff Hemingway does a great job with this. Jeff really has helped me understand this better. And if you're in my inner circle, we always start off, hi, I'm Dan, I'm 66. This past week, I trained 4 times. I walked twice. I did a canoe race. I did this, did that. My nutrition has been good. My sleep has been outstanding. And my big goal, or something like that, or my favorite cereal, or my favorite movie, the last movie I watched, whatever. You have something like that that reintroduces everybody every week. I think the reintroduction is as important as anything. You start to bind up. Someone might say, I have a sick granddaughter. Next week, we all want to know how that granddaughter's doing. So you build community, and when you begin to make those threads in the community, people come back more and more and more. With the way you're setting it up using the workout generator, people will be training in different ways. But if you can make it so that everyone does their pushes at the same time, their pulls at the same time, their hinges or squats, and then finish off with a group loaded carry, or do the mobility at the same time, or make a group mobility, anything you do is fine. So group warm up, maybe group mobility, I like this idea a lot. And then if you kind of keep it the basics, we're all pushing at the same time, maybe 10 different movements. We're all pulling at the same time, maybe 6 different movements. We're all squatting or doing remedial squat movements, maybe 3 or 4 different movements. Hinge, and it could be 10 movements again. Loaded carry, try to just do the same one. So the warm up, the loaded carries, and the mobility are all done as a group, and the specific exercises on the fundamental movements might be done a little differently. It's not bad. Intentional communities led me to the inner circle, and the inner circle is one of the most important things I do in my career. It's funny because we used to always joke that the teacher learns more than the students. On the inner circle, I sometimes feel like I learn so much more. Thank you so much. It's a fun question. We have a question. It's kind of actually parallel to your question. It's from Diva. And Diva says, I'm a 50-year-old female kettlebell enthusiast, and I've been training with bells since 2014. I walk thrice a week and strength train thrice a week, incorporating programs with the squat, hinge, pull, and press, and a little bit of carries as well. Wanted to have your insight on training for longevity, as that's my goal. Well, you're already there. You're already there. So the research on exercise, it's funny, if you read some of the new books on longevity, and I've done this in a couple of my past podcasts, I have all the books right there in my office. Over and over and over for longevity, they keep saying this: exercise. What about this pill? That's fine. But if you exercise, you probably don't need the pill. What about this diet? Good point. Exercise. Even things like smoking. Well, yeah, but if you exercise, you'll be better statistically than a smoker who doesn't exercise. Exercise. You're already doing it. Spring Chicken by Bill Gifford, he recommends that you only need 100 minutes a week of exercise. Well, it's as soon as I finish this podcast, I'm going to do well over 100 minutes of exercise. It's just, and that's just in one day. You're already doing the most important thing. Now, what you're doing very well, and gentle listeners, I want you to listen to this. She is mixing walking with strength training. And that probably for most people is the best thing you can do. I like the idea of having fast twitch work for longevity programs, but the fast twitch work has to be done safely. I watched someone get injured about a week ago playing something the person obviously shouldn't have been playing. And they're going to be fine. It was just an injury, that was soft tissue injury. But it was pretty obvious to me that this person hadn't done anything fast in a long time as I was talking to them. One of the reasons you want to include fast twitch stuff is that if you have to jump over a rattlesnake, or if you have to jump up on a ledge, or if you have to run to help somebody, you don't want to pull every muscle in your body when you're going. So the only thing, and what's nice about the question here is that you say you're hinging, and for a lot of people, the kettlebell swing or any member of the hinge family, the hip thrust, can be fast twitch, and it seems to help a lot. So for training for longevity, there should be a walking component. There should be the fundamental human movements: push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry, and at some level, some of the training should include some speed work at some level. It doesn't mean you have to do sprints. It doesn't mean you have to do 10,000 swing challenge. It just means make sure you add something that makes you move fast. One of the ways you can do it, and I did this last week, is we had this, I was playing a soccer game with some of the young kids, and they had that big bouncy ball that you use for fitness, and we were playing, and we kicked the ball and laughed for a long time. Oddly, and I should have sensed this, I was sore in places that are all fast twitch powerhouse places in my body. As much glute work as I do, my glutes were still sore. As much lower body work as I do, my hamstrings were still sore. My calves were sore. All those fast twitch muscle fibers that I think I work on when I played a game with a bunch of 10-year-olds of soccer, those all came back up. So remember that. Walk, fundamental human movements, some fast twitch is appropriate. Okay, thank you. Good question. Paul asked a question. I'm a 47-year-old, 180-pound man who had a major surgery a few years ago for some serious medical issues. I am healthy now and want to build my body back. I want to meet the Big Blue Club strength standards. The Big Blue Club is what I expect my high school male football players, male athletes to do. 205-pound front squat, 205-pound clean, 315 deadlift. There's a bunch of others too, but that's good enough. I was looking to follow the one lift a day program and was wondering if I could do your 1-2-3 rep scheme for strength to start the workout and then switch to 2-3-5-10 afterwards for hypertrophy. Or would it be better to just build strength first for 6 weeks because everything works about that long, and then switch to a hypertrophy program? Easy strength was always tempting, but I know squatting is a major gap for me, and I have said it doesn't work on easy strength. Well, first off, you'll notice even in your question here, Paul, you want to do one lift a day, but you don't want to follow the one lift a day rules. One lift a day is a hard program because when I did it, I did power snatches on Monday, 7 sets of 5. I did front squats, 7 sets of 5. I did power cleans, 7 sets of 5. So we're looking at 35 reps. And if you're gonna do the 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, is it possible? But yeah, you're gonna have to do a lot of strings of that. Probably 5 ladders of 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3 at least. And when you slide over to the hypertrophy program, 2-3-5-10, which is fine, If you do 5 ladders of that, that's 100 reps. So you certainly can do it, but you're going to really have to nail down those reps. Can you do this program that you're talking about? Yes. Doing 1 lift a day, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 5 days a week would be an interesting program. Squats will work on that. But I'll tell you this, Paul, when you slide over to 2, 3, 5, 10 on squats, good luck on that. You might have to drop to 2, 3, 5 or not do very many rounds on it. So one of the things I also want you to listen to, after a surgery, you say major surgery, things are different. You want to get your body back. Traditionally, I use a program when someone's cleared to train. I usually move into that 15 to 30 rep stage for a while. The traditional Thomas DeLorme hypertrophy numbers, 3 sets of 8, 3 sets of 10, 5 by 5, because I want to build back some body mass hypertrophy. I want to build back some power. The 5 to 8 range traditionally is considered the power range. You can go higher or lower depending on who you're reading. And do that for a while before I start focusing on something like just strength or something just like hypertrophy. Your program would work because, when in doubt, strength is the foundation for most things. I like the idea. I think there's some value to it. Paul does finish up with, I went to Utah State to graduate school, so you always get an absolute pass, except the following. I threw the discus my senior year at high school in Maryland, but he spelled the discus with 2 S's, so you'll have to do some punishment laps for that. But I think overall, your question about building back after a major surgery, once you're cleared, let me just give you what I would normally say, and then let's review you. Normally, I would like to see you, once cleared, go back into a gym, the kind you pay a membership to, get on machines, do 3 sets of 8. You can do horizontal push, vertical push, horizontal pull, vertical pull. You can do the leg extension, leg curl. They have these weird looking hinge machines now. You can do some hyper extensions, curls, triceps. Just do that for a while. And 3 to 6 weeks of that, wake everything back up. Stay as far from injury as you possibly can. Then we slide over to something a little bit more aggressive, get yourself back to where you were. In your case, 1 lift a day, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 5 to 6 times, I think would be an idea. I don't have any experience with it, but Paul, if you like it, do it, but you make sure you get back to me. That's a good question. It made me think and rethink, which is always kind of fun. Well, there you go. There's episode 214 of the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. Remember, if you had questions, you will send them to us, podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com. We'll do our best each week to answer each and every one. And until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.